Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast. This is the preview show in association with Get German Football News. I'm Manu and Stefan. He's Stefan Bienkowski. Stefan, how's it going? How's your cold doing?
Not great. I'm struggling, to be honest with you. And considering one of our listeners referred to me as the ER of Bundesliga football podcasting today because I'm always so miserable, I fear having this head cold will not make me any better in that regard. But I shall strive to be as happy and as cheery as possible, even though I'm quite upset. This is the final Bundesliga match day of the year. And we can't even, usually when it's this time of year, we can usually start getting in the mood for Christmas, or obviously in the US, you guys have a whole holiday season. So, usually when this fixture comes around, people are already kind of getting excited, but I guess there's this little thing called the World Cup on the horizon, but some of us aren't as excited as maybe others are in that regards. But I will strive to be positive.
It's kind of sad that this entire season gets interrupted by a tournament in Qatar, where the majority of people will be living in containers in the desert, going to stadiums built by people who lived in the most terrible situations. But so be it. FIFA wants to make money. So we all have to take a break, and some of us will, some of us won't. I don't begrudge anyone who's not watching this World Cup. You and I probably be watching quite a few games because it's our job. I think if it wasn't my job, Stefan, I'd probably be going on a holiday and ignore it.
Well, I think I said this on the last show. I'm looking forward to going to some lower league football in Scotland, actually. Yeah. See the mighty Spiders in Glasgow. So, there's a silver lining to it in that regard, just because every Saturday I'm usually glued to a television for 4 or 5 hours watching the Bundesliga. So yeah, it does come with some positives.
Yeah, some games kick off. I live on the West Coast, right? Some games here kick off at 5 a.m. Whew. That's a lot harder than the 6:30 Bundesliga starts. But well,
I could actually top that. I might be doing some television work for the competition in India. Well, I won't be in India, I'll be in Scotland, but I'll be phoning into a studio show. And I think they record at 3 a.m, so that will be fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. If you want World Cup content, we have recorded a German national team squad analysis. That's behind the paywall, so please subscribe. Checked out that content. Lots of good stories. You wrote a great article about Yusufu Moukoko. I wrote a story on Paxton Aronson, the US kid, who I got to see live at the MLS Cup final last weekend. And he's going to join Eintracht Frankfurt. It might actually be announced by the time this podcast comes out. The deal is done. So please subscribe. There's tons of cool content on there, including some World Cup content on the German national team. But this is the preview show, so we should probably jump right into our predictions, and we'll do that after this break. This episode of the Gegenpressing podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. Basketball is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And is your continued source for all sports wagering information. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. That's it, BLEAV, to to receive your rewards. Bet online, where the game starts. So yeah, Stefan, this Bundesliga match day, this makes me even more sad about the World Cup. Starts off with a bang. The derby of the Borussias. Gladbach against Dortmund. That's the Friday night fixture. We didn't even talk about, this is what happens when you record back to back. What's your match of the week?
Good question. Shall I just pick this one?
Yeah, pick this one. That is a good one. In that case. And I'll just announce when we get to the match, when I say it's my match of the week. But let's do this one in depth, because I think this is actually a really fascinating game.
Yeah, I think maybe the other one's maybe the opposite, the game at the very end of the match day. But yeah, this is an interesting game just because I think Gladbach and Dortmund have both been equally inconsistent this season. Gladbach, I really expect them to kind of pick up a result against Bochum, to be honest with you, which they didn't do. They lost 2-1 against, admittedly, a Bochum side that might just be turning a corner under a new head coach. And I don't know, I just kind of feel like this game could go any way. I feel like Dortmund will probably have just about enough to edge it, but having watched them against Wolfsburg in midweek, who I can't remember if I predicted a draw for that game or if a Wolfsburg win, but I was fully expecting to see Wolfsburg play Dortmund off the pitch, and that's exactly what they did. And, I had some grief from Dortmund fans today on Twitter saying I'm always negative about the club, and I don't really understand how I can be anything but negative about this Dortmund side right now. They're inconsistent. The coach doesn't seem to know what he's doing. Key players don't look like they're playing well at all. 2 or 3 of them going to the World Cup with Germany. It'll be interesting to see how they perform under a different head coach. It's just a very frustrating time for Dortmund right now. And I made the point that there's a very good chance that they could finish the year not only behind RB Leipzig, which they are right now on goal difference, but completely out of the top 4, which they are right now as well. I feel like they probably will go on and win this game 2-1 against Gladbach, so they might be able to turn things around, but it could easily go the other way. It's going to be a very tight game, I think. Yeah,
I think so too. I actually went for 3-1, but I echo everything that you're saying. I feel like this is the kind of game where Dortmund are up 2-1, and then Gladbach will be pushing, and they somehow manage to squeeze in a third, right, to finish it off. So my prediction for the game is probably more clear-cut than the game actually will be. But yeah, I echo everything you say about Borussia Dortmund. There's a ton of flaws there at the moment, and frustrating to watch at times. Not sure where this is going. I guess they don't know themselves, as is often the case in Dortmund. So yeah, but it would be a fascinating match. It would be a great match to kick off what should be a really fascinating match day. So let's head to the Saturday fixtures, and I think the first game here is Leverkusen against Stuttgart. And Leverkusen looking better. They won the Rhein Derby, as both of us predicted they would. And I think they're going to maybe win this game as well, 2-0. What do you think, Stefan?
Yeah, I've kind of gone similarly. I've gone for a 2-1 win against Stuttgart because I just kind of feel like Stuttgart still have something about them. They obviously picked up quite a surprise win against Hertha Berlin actually in midweek. So they look like they've kind of got their groove back to an extent, but also, I think Leverkusen were quite thorough against Cologne, and I think they should have enough about them. It's not exactly a game that fills me with a huge amount of excitement, to be honest with you. Although perhaps that's the wrong approach to it, because two teams that certainly know how to attack. But yeah, I've gone for a 2-1 win for Leverkusen.
Yeah. So up next, is this the Plastic Derby? We had the Plastic Derby a couple of weeks ago with Wolfsburg and Leverkusen, but this is the other one. Hoffenheim against Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg have been really good. Like, really good. Silently. I remember when I was at the Union Berlin against Wolfsburg game, and I thought that was Niko Kovac's last game as a head coach. Instead, they announced that Jörg Schmatke, the long-serving director of sport, would be leaving at the end of the year. There was a huge reshuffling in the front office, and Niko Kovac got to stay, and he's turned this team around, just as you said he would in your newsletter a couple of weeks ago. And I think they're going to continue their good form here, Stefan. I think they're going to win this game 2-1.
Yeah, I've gone for 3-1 actually, and I kind of completely agree with you. Hoffenheim haven't had the best run of form recently, and as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I was just really impressed with them against Dortmund. I think that front line looks really impressive. It's just so dynamic, so much pace, and also just really hard working as well. There doesn't seem to be any egos in that team, and the thing that really stands out to me is they just seem very tactically astute and very tactically disciplined. And that's kind of like a worse fear for a team in the Bundesliga like Hoffenheim, who maybe are really faltering at the moment. So, yeah, I think Werder Bremen. I think Wolfsburg will go on and pick up all 3 points and leapfrog Werder Bremen, is what I meant to say there, into 7th place, which would really be quite remarkable considering where they were not that long ago.
And then be behind Dortmund's tails. It's a sight to watch. We had them possibly crack the top 4 in our preseason predictions. Remember that? And then we looked like fools in the beginning, but things starting to look up for our prediction.
I feel like we should maybe do another podcast in the winter, do like we maybe listen back to our prediction podcast and just kind of laugh at ourselves.
I don't think we're that far off. Yeah, we'll see. We should listen back to it. And
it would be incredible if Wolfsburg...
It'd be a fun show to do.
Yeah, it'd be incredible if Wolfsburg did finish the top 4, because they're actually currently only 6 points off it, which is nuts.
Considering the start they had, that's absolutely incredible. Talking about bad starts, Bochum had a bad start, fired the head coach, have been turning things around. They're facing Augsburg, and I think they're going to get another point here. I have this as a 1-1 draw. How about you?
This is the Augsburg-Bochum game?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I missed the start of your sentence there. Yeah, I've gone for a draw as well. I've gone for 2-2. Not entirely giving up on Augsburg just yet, but they're not really picking up enough wins at the moment. They're getting some pretty decent draws. You know, they've picked up really hard-fought draws against Leipzig and obviously Union Berlin in midweek. And as much as Bochum have kind of picked up some points recently, I don't think they're really in the ascendancy per se. So I think we're probably going to see 2 very hard-working teams just kind of grind out a point each in this game. And as such, I think it'll be one for the purists.
That's a very polite way of saying this is not going to be a good game to watch.
Which hurts me because Augsburg are also the best team in Bavaria, so, you know.
Oh, God. Let's quickly move on. Next up, Hertha against Köln. A Hertha side that's, improved, still has its wobbles here and there. I thought they played very well against Bayern, then lose to Stuttgart. Against a Köln side that's been struggling. And I think Hertha got this one. I think they're going to win this game at home 2-0. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, to be honest. I've gone for 2-0 as well. I think intriguingly, if you kind of look over the last 10 games, Hertha have actually picked up fewer points than Cologne. And over the last 5 games, they're both quite similar as well. So I do wonder if this is just a case of expectations or, expectation meeting reality and people being pleasantly surprised that Hertha are picking up the odd result while people are kind of bemused or a little upset or depressed that Cologne are kind of slowly slumping down the league table. Having said that, despite picking up 3 defeats on the trot now, I do feel like Hertha maybe have something a little bit more about them than Cologne at the moment. So that's why I've gone for a 2-0 win. But it's a game that really could go either way, to be honest with you, even though I think Hertha will win it.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting matchups. This next one I find fascinating. It's not my match of the week, but I still think it's going to be a fascinating match. It's Werder Bremen against Leipzig. Leipzig, with the head coach that Dortmund probably should have, they've already jumped ahead of Dortmund. They were 9 points behind Dortmund when Marco Rose got hired. Let that sink in. And they're now banging on the door of the top 4. They could jump into the top 4 depending on how the final match of the week goes between Freiburg and Union. Their run of form has been incredible, and I think it's going to continue here. I think Leipzig are going to win this game 3-0. And Marco Rose will have navigated an incredibly difficult time and finishing ahead of the World Cup in the top 4. That's insane. Absolutely insane. But yeah, here we are. What do you think?
Yeah, along similar lines, to be perfectly honest with you. I think we've both kind of spoke quite a lot recently about, Leipzig's turnaround under Marco Rose. I actually tweeted out a stat about, points won in the Bundesliga over the last 10 match days, and only Bayern and Frankfurt have picked up more points the last 10 games, and that's only one more than Leipzig. So it really does go to show how much they have managed to turn things around. And you draw a comparison there with Werder Bremen, who are also doing very well, and they'll finish the season delighted with themselves, knocking on the door of the top 6, potentially maybe dropping down to mid-table after this round of fixtures, but by no means a bad return considering what they came from, and you don't have to look at Schalke to see how bad things could have been. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very easy win for RB Leipzig. Josko Guardiola today, it was announced that he had broke his nose in the midweek game, so he might be playing with some sort of mask. But I think they're going to be absolutely fine. There's maybe a question mark over how this team looks after the World Cup when so many key players are probably going to play a lot of football. But as things stand, things look pretty rosy for Leipzig, I think.
Yeah, I think the top 4 finish is now very much in the card for them. You spoke about Schalke already. They won a match against Mainz midweek. No one saw that coming. I can tell you with absolute certainty that they're not going to win this next one. As they face Bayern Munich, in form Bayern Munich. This is the worst possible timing for Bayern in terms of when they pick up form. Great timing for Hansi Flick and his national team, but not great timing for Bayern Munich. Because they are most of the squad is going to the World Cup now, right? But they are going to win this one, Stefan. I went for a 6-0, but I could have also gone 7, 8, 9. A gazillion to nil goals. They're going to win this very easily.
Do you know what? Poor Schalke, they just can't catch a break. They finally pick up a win in midweek against Mainz, and then Bochum go and pick up a win as well. Well, actually, they did it before them technically, but just go to, even when they do kind of claw back points, it doesn't make a difference at the bottom of the table. And, as if this was something they could use to kind of turn their form around, to then have to welcome Bayern Munich to their home stadium. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a kind of thumping as well, to be honest with you. I've gone for 4-0 just because I think some of Bayern's players will probably get substituted off at half-time to save them from getting injured. So, I think this is probably going to be the most obvious result of the weekend. I think Schalke will just be kind of hoping to get to that kind of winter break and just kind of forget any of this kind of the previous 15 games that happened, and just kind of get back to basics and hope that they can turn things around in this mid-season break, because it has been a disaster. And perhaps this game and a royal thumping of Bayern Munich is probably quite an appropriate end for them to this kind of first half of the season.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Watch it now being a 1-1 draw. But I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Up next, and this is actually a derby. And if the final Sunday fixture wouldn't have happened, that would have been my match of the week. Mainz against Frankfurt. It's a 20-minute S-Bahn ride between the two. They're very close together, those two cities. There's a huge rivalry between them. This is the Rhein-Main derby. And is the fixture between the most informed team against a team that's been struggling a little bit. And I think that Frankfurt are going to win this game quite handily, 3-0. Frankfurt have been in excellent form. As you said, what was it, 21 points? As many points as Bayern Munich in recent weeks? They've been really good to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I do kind of worry a wee bit for Mainz, to be honest with you. because they had a pretty decent season last year, but things have just kind of fallen apart. I know they lost some key players. Kind of hoped that the ones that they signed would replace them. That just hasn't really worked out for them yet. But yeah, things seem to be going very well for Frankfurt. There's a good chance they'll probably finish the year in a top 4 finish, which, when you couple that with them getting out of a really difficult Champions League group, it's just further astonishment, and just Oliver Glasner continuing to kind of perform miracles at the club. And I'd actually maybe go so far as to say that right now he's probably the contender for manager of the season. As things stand, obviously a lot of football left to play, and we'll see what happens. But if we were to give out those awards at this point in the season, I think maybe Glasner's probably the main contender there. Even though obviously Union Berlin are above them, and they're the fairy tale, blah 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 blah. But it definitely between him and Urs Fischer, I guess. With Christian Streich once again, unfortunately, have to pick up second place. But yeah, I think they're probably going to pick up a 2-0 win over Mainz here, and yeah, I think Mainz are maybe going to have to go back to the drawing board over the Christmas and maybe look at the transfer window and see if they're lacking the quality needed to kind of nail down a mid-table spot in this league, because I do kind of wonder if there's a few teams coming up behind them that might turn things around in the second half of the season, and if Mainz aren't careful, they could get themselves dragged into a relegation race.
Yeah, maybe. I think what's going to be really interesting to see is, and this is because the next match is my match of the week, but if Frankfurt win this game, and my prediction in my match of the week holds true, Frankfurt could finish 2022 in second place, because I think, and this would be insane, I think Frankfurt fans would be over the moon with this, but I think this Freiburg-Union Berlin game is going to end in a 1-1 draw, Stefan. It is my match of the week. It's second against third. It's the two fairy tale teams against one another, but Union Berlin have been wobbling a little bit in recent weeks. I think the amount of matches is finally catching up with them a little bit. I think they're probably looking forward to this break quite a bit. On form, I would slightly pick Freiburg ahead of them, but I just don't know if Freiburg have it in them on beating them, which is why I went for the safe option of a 1-1 draw. Nonetheless, I think this is the perfect match to round up the weekend. I think it's going to be a fascinating game to watch. Between two of the best stories in German football. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that this fixture has come at this point in the season, because it may end up with the Bundesliga finishing the year with Bayern in a comfortable lead, which isn't really what anyone wants to see, I suppose. I suppose Frankfurt won't be too far off them, but yeah, I've actually gone for the exact same result, to be honest with you. I've also, when I was looking into this, I thought 1-1. We talked about this in the main show, actually, in terms of what was going on at Union Berlin recently, and it just seems to me like they're kind of... I didn't catch the game against Augsburg, but it seems to me like they're just in one of those ruts of form that even the best teams go through, and they'll probably be quite happy that it's happened now, and they can just kind of get into that mid-season break and just kind of get back to, well, the thing is, as we've talked about, a lot of their players just aren't going in the World Cup, so they'll basically get a second pre-season, and they could end up firing out the blocks once again in the second half of the season. So by no means are they, out of this. Well, I don't really want to call it a title race, but you know what I mean. I don't think they're going to start dropping down the table, shall I say? And of course, Freiburg as well, doing very well, stumbling a little bit as well, but. Yeah, so I think both teams will probably kind of put together a 1-1 draw, just because I can't really pull them apart. And I think both teams are quite a little jaded, a little tired. Neither side in top form. So yeah, I think a point apiece probably makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Union are running on fumes a little bit. They'll be happy for this break. Nonetheless, it should be an interesting game to watch. So I urge people to tune in. My match of the week, Freiburg against Union. Stefan, that's our final preview show for 2022. This show is brought to you in association with Get German Football News. It's sponsored by BetOnline. That's it. We're going to, of course, do content during the World Cup. We're going to have a special show on Monday, so stay tuned for that. Not about the World Cup, but about a Hamburg Beer Festival themed game in California, I went and explored the reasons behind the Oktoberfest theme. So stay tuned. We got some good answers about the Oktoberfest theme. It's not quite as clear-cut as it seems. Fascinated listening. Tune in for that. And then, of course, we're going to have content. I will be in St. Louis for the Leverkusen Stadium opening. St. Louis Stadium opening with Leverkusen, and then watch the Stuttgart-Köln Bundesliga derby in Austin. So there will be some interesting content coming here for that way as well. And then we're going to do some special stuff during the World Cup, right? We're going to replace the show with a transfer roundup, I think is the plan, right?
Yeah. Just kind of, obviously the World Cup's great for the football, but it also seems to be a hub of transfer news and rumours. So we figured it might be good, since there's no fixtures, just to kind of do a weekly show, myth-busting a few stories which, as any German football fan will know, propagate online. So it'd be quite good fun. Not to say that transfer rumours aren't true. There's plenty of good sources out there, and Manu and I know both of them. Manu himself's a great source for transfer news as well. So he'll be able to offer his insight on that regard. But yeah, we just think it'd be a bit of fun as well to kind of just pick up the back pages of the newspapers around Europe and poke holes in some rumours and underline the ones that people should be taking notice of.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's it. Enjoy the final match day. We'll be back next week with some special content. Until then, auf Wiedersehen.
Ende in Sicht.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.